Picking up from where we left off, I genuinely liked the Model Y. That is what made replacing it complicated. But over time, a few things started to change how I felt about it. HW3 still bothers me. Not because I want to spend every day comparing software versions like a hobby. Normal people do not buy a car because they want one more device with release notes. But software was a big reason I bought a Tesla. When I bought my car, Tesla kept presenting HW3 as enough for future full self-driving capability. As a normal buyer, I understood that pretty simply, the hardware is ready and the software will come later. And to be fair, the car did get new features through OTA updates. So it was easy to believe the car would keep getting newer after I bought it. Then AI4, or HW4 as most people call it, came out. Over time, the two hardware generations started moving at different speeds. My HW3 car stayed on the V12 generation for a long time, while newer hardware started getting newer FSD branches and interface features first. Tesla's own documentation also makes it clear that actual FSD features can depend on hardware, software version, model year, configuration, and region. That statement is reasonable, but as an older owner, the practical meaning is this. Two cars can both say FSD and still not receive the same thing at the same time. I am not saying every HW4 car gets everything perfectly. Releases vary, but the disappointment as an HW3 owner was real. I did not expect a 2022 car to remain identical to a 2026 car forever. Cars change. That is normal. The difference is that Tesla had sold me on a specific idea. The hardware was already prepared, and future capability would arrive through software. The future did arrive. It just kept arriving beside me first. It felt like buying a flagship phone after the company tells you the processor is future-proof. A few years later, the system still updates, but every exciting new feature says, new models only. The phone still works. It may work well. You are still allowed to feel disappointed. HW3 did not make me sell the car by itself, but it did make me less romantic about the phrase, your car gets better over time. I could tolerate the other issues. The thing that finally pushed me to replace the car was winter skiing at Tremblant. I ski a lot, not 1 or 2 trips a year for a photo. If I have a free winter day, I want to be on the mountain. Ottawa winters are cold. -10 is normal. -15 or -20 is not rare. The drive from my house to Tremblant is a little over 200 kilometers each way. Normally, it takes about 2.5 hours. This is not crossing Canada. It is a normal weekend ski trip. I would leave home with a full battery. To save energy, I rarely went above 110 on the highway. On the mountain roads where the limit was 90, I usually stayed around 100. Even driving like that, I almost never arrived with more than 30%. Think about that for a second. I started at 100%, drove a little over 200 kilometers, and arrived with 20 to 30% left. That is what winter range felt like in real life for me. If it was colder than -15, I could arrive below 20%. I have arrived around 18% before. The worst trip was more dramatic. Before I even reached the mountain, the car was already at 13%. It estimated that I would arrive with 7%. At that point, courage was not the issue. If I arrived with 7% and left the car outside for several hours in -15 or -20, I might not get out of the parking lot. So I left my route and started looking for a third-party fast charger. The first charger was occupied. The next one was closed for repair. On the map, it looked like there were options. In real life, one was unavailable and another did not work. I detoured for a long time before I finally found a charger. The battery kept dropping. The clock kept moving. I had no idea whether the next charger would actually be usable. That trip was genuinely stressful. I eventually charged enough to reach the mountain with about 30%. Only then did I feel comfortable skiing. After skiing, I came back and the car was around 22%. I had lost about 8 points while sitting outside. If I'd arrived with 7%, then lost 8 points, you do not need FSD to solve that math problem. The car might not have left the parking lot. Even a less extreme arrival, like 18%, created problems. On my older Model Y, Sentry mode shuts off below 20%. It was not me being cheap with battery. The car basically said, forget watching the parking lot, we should focus on getting home. Some people hear 18% and say, just find a charger. But I did not drive to Tremblant to charge. I drove there to ski. There are only a few charging spots near the base. In the morning, they can be occupied. If I charged first, I lost ski time. If I skied first, the car sat outside in the cold for 4 or 5 hours. The time I came back, 18% might be 13%. The battery was cold. Regenerative braking could be limited or basically gone. My legs were tired, it was freezing. The car had barely more than 10% left. Then I still had to drive carefully to a supercharger. I thought before accelerating, I thought about how much heat to use. Sentry mode was already gone. Then I finally reached the supercharger and often found a line. Ski day could start around 6 in the morning. I might ski 4 or 5 hours and still not get home until 8 at night. Tremblant itself is not that far. The missing time went into finding a charger, waiting for a stall, and charging. That is what range anxiety meant for me. The car could make the trip. I am not saying it was impossible. I was just doing math all day. Temperature, wind, highway speed, arrival percentage, 20% Sentry cutoff, the supercharger line, whether I should ski one less hour. Skiing is supposed to help me relax. Instead, every trip started with an energy planning exercise. After 4.5 years, I was not scared. I was tired. At some point, I decided I would rather burn some gas and spend a few extra dollars to buy back 1 or 2 hours of my day. I could get home earlier and sleep. I could stay on the mountain and ski more. Either way, my time and mental energy were worth more than the difference between electricity and gasoline on a spreadsheet. Skiing was the clearest reason, but not the only one. My expectations changed. When I bought the Tesla, I called the interior minimalist. A few years later, it sometimes felt unfinished. The car had not changed much. I had changed. I started caring more about noise, materials, and long-distance comfort. My older Model Y had noticeable wind and tire noise on the highway. Short drives were fine. After an hour or two, especially with winter tires, it got tiring. You may not notice that during a 15-minute test drive around a dealership. Spend 2 hours on the highway and suddenly the conversation is not about minimalism or the future. It is just, why is this car so loud? Stereo was excellent. Sometimes I wondered if Tesla made it that good so I could turn it up and cover the tire noise. The Model Y was easier on my back than the 430, but I would not call it relaxing on long trips. My ears got tired first. The rest of me followed. The glass roof was similar. When I bought the car, it looked special. The cabin felt open. I really liked it. Then summer arrived, and the future started cooking my head. Sun came through the roof all day. The cabin got extremely hot. I bought a third-party roof shade and installed it myself. My older car also had no ventilated seats. After sitting in the sun, the roof heated me from above and the seat heated me from below. The thermal management system felt very complete. It was just managing me instead of the battery. First, I installed the shade in summer and removed it in winter. Eventually, I stopped bothering. For the last couple of years, the glass roof was basically covered all year. I bought the car partly because the roof looked cool. Then, I paid extra to hide it. I also installed the third-party display behind the steering wheel so I could have information in front of me and use CarPlay. Since it was not factory equipment, it sometimes had connection issues. Playing music could turn into a small negotiation between my phone and the screen. None of these would make me sell the car in one day. But small annoyances become real annoyances when they happen every day for years. Build quality also mattered. During delivery inspection, I touched some body seams and panel edges. A few were sharp enough to cut my hand. Some gaps were bigger than I expected. That was my car. I am not saying every Tesla owner had the same experience, but the car I paid for did not meet my expectations for fit and finish. I did consider the newer Model Y. I test drove it. It fixed several things. Better glass, softer suspension, ventilated seats. I liked all of that, but it fixed the annoying parts of my old car. It did not fix the reason I wanted to replace in winter. On the way to Tremblant, I would still be calculating battery. I would still be planning around charging. The newer car would let me do the math in a quieter, more comfortable cabin. It would not let me stop doing the math. I also dislike some of Tesla's newer control decisions. My old car already put a lot into the screen: wipers, climate, mirrors, glove box. After a few years, I mostly accepted that. Tesla removed the stalks, moved turn signals to steering wheel buttons, put gear selection on the screen, and tried to predict whether I wanted to go forward or backward. Some people love that. I do not. During a U-turn or in a roundabout, the steering wheel is already rotated. That means the turn signal buttons have moved too. A stock stays where it is. With buttons, I first have to find the button. I do not consider that progress. I do not like screen-based gear selection either. A car can help me. It can suggest things, but do not remove a simple control that already worked and then tell me to learn a new system. I buy technology because I want it to help me, not educate me. After that test drive, I knew the next car search had to go beyond Tesla. Once I decided to replace the Model Y, I did not start with a brand. I started with requirements. First, remote climate had to keep running after I locked the car and walked away. We often bring our dog with us. The next car did not need Tesla's exact dog mode interface, but I needed to know the climate system was running and the dog was safe. Second, winter ski trips could not involve constant battery math. If the car could use gasoline, I would not need to wait at a supercharger or drive slowly just to preserve range. I could go to the mountain, ski, and come home. If I needed fuel, the stop would take a few minutes. Third, long trips had to be comfortable. The 430 taught me that good handling does not guarantee a happy back. The Tesla taught me that instant acceleration does not guarantee a happy back. The Tesla taught me that instant acceleration does not guarantee a quiet cabin. But I also did not want to give up electric driving completely. I have home charging. Around town, electric driving is still great, so I focused on plug-in hybrids. My feature list was not that crazy. Head-up display, ventilated seats, adaptive cruise control, and ideally decent lane centering. I thought those were normal features. Then I opened the configurators. Every brand had them. Very few gave them together on a normal trim. HUD needed a package. Ventilated seats needed a higher trim. Adaptive cruise sometimes pushed you even higher. You asked for 3 ordinary features, and the configurator congratulates you for almost reaching the top trim. Looking back, I did not suddenly decide I needed a more expensive car. My previous cars slowly defined the next one. It had to be an SUV, comfortable on long trips, big enough for the dog and ski gear, electric around town, gasoline for winter trips. In Canada, Audi and Genesis did not have a plug-in hybrid that fit my needs, so I removed them. I considered the Lexus RX comfortable, reliable, strong resale. I understand the appeal, but RX theft in Canada made me uncomfortable. I did not want to buy a car and immediately add one more thing to worry about. I also looked at the Mazda CX-90. The product itself was not necessarily the problem. My first car experience had damaged my trust in the brand. That left 3 main candidates: the plug-in hybrid Volvo XC90, Mercedes GLE, and BMW X5. I had some experience with that size class. I had rented a BMW 5 Series in Europe and liked the interior. We had driven a GLE before and liked the space. I had test-driven the X5 and XC90. None of them felt unacceptable. I was mainly looking at newer used cars, not brand new cars. New cars were too expensive, especially the first chunk of depreciation. I decided to let the first owner enjoy peeling off the plastic and also enjoy absorbing the most painful part of the depreciation. That sound is nice, but not several $1,000s nice. I considered leasing too, but most plans allowed around 20,000 kilometers a year, sometimes 24,600 BC. That may work for many people. For someone with a dog, ski trips, and long drives, it might not. I was replacing the Tesla because I was tired of calculating. Leasing another car would just turn range anxiety into mileage anxiety. Before, I worried about battery. Now I would worry about kilometers. That would defeat the point. So a clean, well-equipped, nearly new used car made more sense. I had done a lot of research, filtered listings on AutoTrader, saved cars, asked questions, checked options, mileage, budgets. I was also very cautious. If a listing looked good, I emailed the salesperson for the build sheet and Carfax. Then I asked for photos of the wheels, brakes, body panels, and interior. My process was a little too complete. I would still be zooming in on brake rotors while someone else had already put down a deposit. Another issue was location. I live in Ottawa, but many good cars were near Toronto or even London, Ontario. I kept thinking, maybe I can go next long weekend. 2 weeks? Cute idea. Good cars do not wait for your calendar. Some were listed one day and sold the next. Some appeared on Friday and were gone by Monday. I missed several that way. Checked the build sheet, checked the Carfax, asked for photos, started planning the trip, and by then the car belonged to someone else. Eventually, I learned the obvious lesson. If I can see it as a good deal, other people can see it too. Then a 2024 facelift X5 showed up with the right price, mileage, and options. At that point, I did not need to decide whether I liked the X5 as a concept. I only needed to decide whether this specific car was right. Price, mileage, options, condition. I moved quickly, but it was not a late-night impulse purchase. The research, test drives, and all the cars I had missed had already done most of the thinking for me. Once the important details checked out, I paid the deposit. Choosing an X5 does not mean the story becomes Tesla bad, BMW good. The X5 fits my life better right now. It is not perfect. A plug-in hybrid has two systems: engine, motor, battery, charging system. More parts mean more things that can eventually break. Once warranty is gone, repairs will not be cheap. I knew that before buying it. It simply solves more of my current problems. I can drive on electricity around town. I can use gasoline on long winter trips. The cabin is more comfortable. The equipment fits what I want now. If you ask what powertrain I am most interested in long-term, I am actually curious about range-extended EVs. Electric drive most of the time, but an engine can generate electricity on long trips. In theory, that is closer to what I want, EV feel without planning the whole day around chargers. So I will keep watching the market. Maybe established brands in Canada will bring better range-extended models. Maybe a Chinese brand like Li Auto enters Canada someday. If something better fits my life in a few years, I may change cars again. I am not loyal to one badge. I am loyal to whatever fits my life at that moment. After all these complaints, I was still sad when it was time to hand over the Tesla. If you ask whether it was perfect, I can complain for another half hour. Confused wipers, phantom braking, highway noise, glass roof heat, HW3 waiting in the software line. None of that was imaginary. But when it was time to remove the car from my phone, I still did not want to let it go. 4.5 years, almost 130,000 kilometers. Work, moving, trips with the dog, ski days, long drives. The car was part of all of it. I will miss the stereo. I will miss the instant power at traffic lights. I will miss dog mode and sentry mode even more. One changed how we traveled with the dog. The other helped me identify a hit-and-run driver and may have saved me thousands of dollars. I will miss walking away with only my phone, plugging in at home, and leaving with a full battery the next morning. I may even miss the early Tesla owner culture. Back then, there were not many of us, and drivers sometimes waved at each other. It sounds silly now. It made me happy then. This was the first car that made me genuinely love electric driving. I still believe software can improve many things in traditional cars. But I will not miss calculating battery all the way to Tremblant. I will not miss finishing a ski day with 13%, creeping toward a supercharger and joining the back of the line. I do not want my life to keep adapting to the car just to prove that I support EVs. When I bought the Model Y, it felt new, cool, and right for my life. Today, I want more comfort and less planning. I want a ski day organized around skiing, not charging. So if I could go back, I would still buy it. If I had to choose today, I would still replace it. Those two answers may sound like they are fighting each other. They do not feel contradictory to me. I loved the car. It frustrated me. I was sad to let it go. I still wanted something else. Thank you for almost 130,000 kilometers. For the next part of the trip, I want to drive a little differently.